So there was a very wealthy man who worked hard all his life, accumulated a lot of wealth, and then he was diagnosed with a fatal illness. He knew he was going to die. He just couldn't bear to die, leaving all of his wealth behind. And so he prayed, just let me take some of my wealth with me. And this voice from an angel came down and said, no, you can't take it with you. You can't take it with you. And he just kept praying and kept praying and kept praying. And then a few nights later, the angel said, well, okay then. You can take one suitcase with you. So he packed this big suitcase full of gold bars. So when he died, he went to heaven. St. Peter met him at the gate, and he said, hey, you can't bring baggage into heaven. He said, no, you don't understand. I have a special permission. So Peter went to talk to God and came back and said, well, you were right, I guess. He said, but there's one condition. I have to look at what's in the bag before you can bring it in. So he said, well, okay. So he opened the bag and he said, you brought pavement? So anyway. I know, that was kind of silly, but it sort of speaks to what I grew up believing about heaven. Yeah, that heaven was this beautiful place with mansions and gold streets and all of these things about heaven. So that's really not what we think about heaven. But what is this thing, this kingdom of God? Where is this kingdom of God? You know, when Jesus was teaching, he was teaching about the kingdom. My Father's kingdom, the kingdom of God, the kingdom of heaven. And the people who were following him, his disciples, and those who were just following him were like, well, when are you going to show it to us? Where is this place? How do we get there? Because remember, the people that Jesus was teaching were Jews who were in occupied territory. The territory they were in were occupied by the Romans, and so they were basically not free, right? They weren't free, and they weren't able to have their freedom and their prosperity and their life because they were oppressed by the Romans. And so when Jesus was talking about the last shall be first and the first shall be last, they were going, hey, sign me up. You know, I want that. Tell us how to get there. Tell us how to be in this place that you're talking about. When's it going to show up? And Jesus was saying that the kingdom of God is within you. The kingdom of God is at hand. In the Gospel of Thomas, Jesus says, the kingdom of God is spread out upon the earth, but men don't see it. The kingdom of God is now, as Marie Watts says. Not some place, or not as Gary's saying, not some place to get into. The kingdom of God is now. As Jesus was teaching his disciples and the Jews that were following him, the kingdom of God is now. The kingdom of God is a state of consciousness. It's not going to show up in the sky somewhere. People's not going to say, oh, it's here, it's there. No, it's right now. And in the Gospel of Thomas, it says, people, it's all around you. It's all around you, but why don't we see it? I think we don't see it because we have misperception. We are seeing through our filters. And our filters are our past, our history, our beliefs. That we see through these eyes, this conditioned mind. And so we see through judgment. We see through criticism. And what Jesus also said was, don't judge by appearances, but judge by righteous judgment. You know, the Sufis talk about seeing with the heart. Like the heart is a mirror. And in that mirror, when the mirror is polished, when the mirror is clear and clean, that we only see the reflection of God, the reflection of the Christ, the reflection of the Buddha nature, the reflection of our divine nature, the reflection of light, whatever it is that you choose to call that divine nature of yourself, that when the mirror of the heart is polished and clean, that we only see the reflection of self, as Marie Watts said, the light, the self reflecting itself to itself. And the Sufis also talk about polishing the mirror, that we allow everything that happens in our lives to polish the mirror, so to speak, to reveal what is true. And so, that's also what Paul talked about, I think, in Corinthians 13, 1 Corinthians 13, when he said, "Now I see as though through a glass darkly." I'm not seeing clearly now in this human experience all the time. I don't see clearly. But when perfection comes, when the kingdom comes within my own awareness, within my own consciousness, then I will see clearly. Then I do see clearly. And I see as I am seen. I know as I know. The same idea of the mirror. I see now through this veil. But when I'm in the kingdom of God consciousness, oneness consciousness, I see myself as that, then the mirror is clear. The glass is washed clean. And I see only the truth. And I know. I don't believe that, well, let me say this. It's possible, I think, that through our evolution of consciousness, we can get there and we can live that place, live from that God consciousness. That is really, I think, our greatest desire, is to live from that God consciousness, to know ourselves as that, and to live in freedom. Freedom from all of the pain and the doubt and all of that. And we get there, don't we? I mean, we have glimpses of it. We have glimpses of the kingdom of God through meditation and prayer and affirmations and denials and all those things. And so I think what Paul was saying is, and what the Sufis were saying, really, is that when we are able and willing to see the kingdom of God, here and now present, nearer than hands and feet, closer than the breath, all of those things, when we're willing to be there, then we experience freedom. We're clear, the heart is cleared, and we're able to see everything as a reflection of God. So, again, like the disciples were saying, how do I get there? How do I get there? Where is this place? Even if it's in my consciousness, how do I get there? Where is it? Fine, tell me. Show me. And I think no one can really show us, but there can be steps along the way, guidance along the way, and I think that's all that Jesus was doing. That's what he was teaching. He was teaching the same thing that other master teachers have taught throughout the centuries. Same thing that the Buddha taught. That the kingdom of God, that peaceful place, nirvana, is here. It's within our own consciousness. And how do we get there? So I think this is another thing that Jesus taught, was seek first the kingdom and righteousness, and everything will be added. Now, what I believe Jesus was teaching was about consciousness. Consciousness. The ultimate goal, I believe, of what Jesus was teaching was what we, sometimes in the Christian tradition, call salvation. In the Buddhist tradition, it's enlightenment. But it is that place of knowing. Freedom. Freedom. And Jesus was saying, just claim it. And he said, seek the kingdom. I don't believe that Jesus was saying, go out and try to find it somewhere else, or that you even have to work hard to find it. I think what he was saying is open your spiritual eyes, open your heart, and you will see it. You will claim it. You will know it. Because it is the very nature of your being. So I would say when Jesus said, seek the kingdom, he was really saying, claim it, know it, make a firm decision that I am going to live in my Christed awareness. I'm going to live in that place of knowing. I recognize that I may not achieve that goal all the time, but it is my clear intention. You know the power of setting an intention. It's setting our intention to be in that place. It's powerful. And we, I'm doing my preaching now, I guess. But I think that's what Jesus was teaching us, to make a firm decision, to decide, yes, this is what I'm going to choose. Moment by moment, I can make a choice to be in my Christed awareness, to live in my Buddha nature, to live the light, to reflect the light, to make a firm decision. And then he said, righteousness. Now, righteousness is not about being pious. Righteousness, I believe, is about right alignment, thinking, speaking, and acting that is in alignment with our truth. Right meaning sort of right up, not wavering. Right thinking. We have the power to choose what we think. You know, we talk about, Unity always says quite often, thoughts held in mind produce after their kind. And sometimes we take that to mean that thoughts held in mind produce in manifestation, and that's true too. Thoughts held in mind produce after their kind also means that thoughts you hold in mind attract thoughts of like kind. So if you hold a thought that is not in alignment with your true nature, then that thought, by the law of attraction, attracts unto itself thoughts of like kind. And so that begins that sort of spiral. And so it's important for us, I think, to maintain an awareness. What's going on in my mind? Because thinking becomes habitual. That we have a habitual way of thinking unless we intervene. We have the power to choose what we are thinking, what thoughts we allow to stay in our focus. Now, thoughts just show up, don't they? You know, you don't get up in the morning and say, I think I won't think today. How many of us do that? I think I won't think today. Thoughts just show up. But we have control over which thoughts we allow to dominate our minds. And so it's important for us to just step back and be aware. What am I thinking? And choose other thoughts. Thoughts that make us feel good. Thoughts that are in alignment with our truth. That's right thinking. Right speaking is speaking the truth about ourselves and about other people and about the world. What is the truth? The truth is not really your perception of the truth. The truth is really, are we speaking in alignment with what we know to be true? Are we speaking in alignment with what we know to be true about ourselves? That is right speaking. Now, I want to say something about last week, and then I talked about denial, and I talked about really allowing yourself to have the experience. And I think it's important for us to have our human experience. And right thinking and right speaking are right in alignment with that, in that what I want to say is that I'm not saying, denial is not about denying what is happening in the moment. You know, you get fired from your job, you're not going to say, well, I didn't get fired from my job. That would be stupid, wouldn't it? I mean, you did get fired from your job, if you did. So denial is not about denying what is happening. It's not even about denying what you're feeling as a result of what happened. It's about owning what happened. It's about saying, yes, this happened. I got fired from my job, and guess what? I feel sad about that, and I'm disappointed about that, and I may even be angry about that in the moment. And I know that God is my source. I know that the perfect and right job is coming my way. I can have that experience, and I can know the truth. So that's what denial is about. It's not about not having your experience. It's having your experience and speak the truth. Does that make sense? What happens to us is that when something like that happens, normally we get into this whole story about it. And so what I'm saying is, what I'm encouraging us to do is have right thinking. Think the truth, align with the truth, speak the truth, and then act from the truth. You know, sometimes I think we just run around out there trying to make things happen, or trying to make things better, or trying to do what we think we should do. Does anybody else but me do that? And so we do that, and I love the saying, don't just do something, stand there. You know? Don't just do something, stand there. Be present and listen. Don't move until you're moved. Not move until you're inspired to move. That's hard sometimes, isn't it? Because we think we should be doing something. I should be taking action. I should be out there looking for a new job. Maybe you should. But again, it's not about what our conditioned mind tells us to do. It's about listening with the heart. What is the heart speaking, moving us to do? So right thinking, right speech, and right action that is in alignment with our truth. And then allowing. As Jesus said, and everything will be added unto you. I don't think he was talking about stuff. I think he was talking about consciousness. Now, I'm not saying that stuff doesn't follow consciousness, but I don't think that was Jesus' focus. I don't think that was the focus of the great master teachers. If anything, they were about eliminating the stuff and living the simplistic life. So it's not about the stuff, it's about consciousness. So make a firm decision. Be conscious of your thinking, of your speaking, of your acting, and then open up to allow the consciousness of heaven, the consciousness of God, the kingdom of God consciousness. Because it really is in that place that we are free. Allow every experience, be present with every experience, show up for every experience. And allow every experience to open you up to seeing more clearly God reflected to you, as you. The light, rejoicing in the reflection of itself. Take that in for a moment. You are the light, rejoicing in the reflection of itself. That's a pretty powerful affirmation. Let's say that together. I am the light, rejoicing in the reflection of itself. Let's say it together. I am the light, rejoicing in the reflection of itself. I believe, brothers and sisters, that is heaven. That is the consciousness of heaven. When we can really know that, and when we can really be in that place. And I know, believe me, I know that we go in and out. We experience it, we get out into the world, we have to come back. But the encouragement is to keep coming back. To keep coming back. To make that decision again, moment by moment. To know yourself as that. To speak, to think, to act from that place. and to open up. Open up to receive everything that comes. Enough said.